Hello, my name is Nancy Young, and welcome to another episode of Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young, a program highlighting the positive voices within our local communities and how they're impacting and uplifting our world one person at a time. Now, before we get started, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Today, we'll be highlighting your voice through that of digital media. My guest today is from the Bay Area here in California. His name is Mr. Michael Bouyer. He is the CEO and founder of GBAT TV and GBA ARTA. At this time, help me welcome Michael. So welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks for joining me today. So the two companies that you are the founder of are, first we'll talk about GBAT TV. So tell me all about that program.
Okay, it's pretty simple. It's an internet broadcast television network, and it's called Greater Bay Area Talent Television. And currently we have 17 menu items on our, 17 titles on our menu, let's say, and we're trying to develop up to 50 programs. So it's a television broadcast network, and we do all the productions, all the writing and creative work, and it's non-scripted. So it's not like Days of Our Lives or, the Fugitive or something. It's non-scripted, but it's just television broadcasting.
So what type of programs do you focus on?
Well, we don't focus on any specific kind, but we include programs like we have several women's programs. We have Mom Entrepreneurs, which is a show about moms who start businesses. We have a show called Fit After 50. It's a show about women over 50 who are in great shape. These are the women's shows. There's a show called Y Sports, which is a show about women who compete in or participate in sports or athletic activities that usually they don't compete in. It might be anything from car racing, to skydiving or something like that. They don't usually, compete in things like that. So we have those. Then we have Comedy Across America. We have Birds and Bees, a show about relationships. We have a show called Discoveries about finding other companies and other people with other businesses and learning about what they do. And all sorts of things. Inside Fashion, a food show called Fork in the Road about finding that out-of-the-way place to dine.
Well, how long have you been doing this?
Well, I've been a multimedia producer for 40 years, and I have been an educator for 35, but a digital multimedia educator for 28. So I've been doing this for 40 years.
How did you start this back 40? Let's go all the way back to 40 years ago.
1980. Yeah, I was a mechanical designer, and I worked for a firm in Silicon Valley. And I liked what I did, but it was odd. They wanted to get a brochure put together, and I did some of the technical writing for it because I had a degree in communications and in mechanical design. So I wrote the technical manual. I drew up some things, and I said, you could probably take photos and do videos and things like that for them too. And so I taught myself how to do those and bought a bunch of equipment. And this was in 1977, 78, 79. And then 1980, I actually had some commercial clients, that I went after. And so that's how I started it,
Okay, so you got into the education part, though. You were an educator for 35 years. So did you teach media, multimedia?
No, I taught adults. I taught adults only photography. I taught them how to shoot and how to do lab work and things like that to develop their pictures and create them. And I taught them the art of photography. And that was in 1985. That's when I started doing that. And in 1990, or approximately 1990, I started teaching digital education. So digital video editing, digital photography, digital.
It's kind of a natural progression from the old dark room, which was red. I forgot what it was called. Where you go in and develop.
The dark room. It was
Yeah,
called
so
the
it's
dark
called
room.
dark room. So one of the gentlemen at my church years ago when I was growing up, it was probably back in the 70s, he was teaching me how to develop photography. So we'd go out and he would take pictures with his professional camera. And so I was like, it's dark. I thought it'd be black, but it's red light. But anyways, it was really interesting, all the things which you have to move around.
Yeah. The red light that they used in the dark room for printing black and white was not visible to the black and white film. So you could see with that red light, but it couldn't see that spectrum of light. So that's how you could see in the dark room, by using the red light in the dark room. So, yeah.
Wow, I was fascinated with my little cameras, with my little 220 or one, I forgot what it was, 110, whatever kind of film. And I would
it was real little. It was 110. Yeah, it was real little. Yeah.
Excited to be able to go and get them.
Oddly enough, 120 film was about this big. I mean, it was really big negatives, you know.
Wow.
So, but 110 was small, really small.
Okay, that was fun going to get things developed. I still have thousands of physical pictures still. Because I love the touch. It's just like books have gone digital, but I have a library of physical books still here in my home. I just love the touch and feel of things in person. Yeah. So digital made it really easy, because I know people probably would be weary with me when they ask me about my kids. You know, I started having kids in '92. And so back then I could still just break out my the pictures. But now on my phone I have thousands.
Pull up pictures.
And so now we can scroll to which year you want.
I know. The good thing about digital is it's a lot cheaper. You can throw away what you don't like, and you can edit it and things like that, and you can carry them on your phone. So that was nice.
That's true. So the newer generation is very different when they take pictures, because they take tons of pictures at one time, click to click. But when you had your camera, it was like, wait till we get that right pose.
Because the film cost, and it cost to develop it, and you had to go through the process of processing it, printing it. It was not cost effective. In fact, when I was shooting film, I would go out and shoot. I shot 8mm film and 16mm film, and that for I don't know, maybe 10 minutes worth of film might cost me $1,000. in materials and the processing, things like that. It might cost $1,000. You know, it's ridiculous. A color and 16mm. Like now, I can shoot for 5 hours for free. If I don't like it, I throw it away.
And just erase it.
Yeah, erase it. Yeah. Or keep it.
Or keep it. Yeah, that's true. Throw it away. So then you went into let's see here, GBA ARTA. So tell me about that.
Okay, and that's a good transition, because it was the late 90s when I'd been teaching in East Palo Alto, and I was very frustrated because we had a lot of larger companies from Silicon Valley who were donating materials and equipment and things like that, which was very nice, and thank you very much. But they were donating their leftover equipment as they progressed to the next level, and the next level. They were donating what was left behind. It's better than nothing. And the thing was, they weren't donating any funds or resources to actually teaching. They were giving you the materials, but they weren't giving you they were giving you the tools, but not the talent to use the tools. And then what to do once you learned how to use the tools. Where would you go? What would you do? So I noticed that the minority community that I served, it was Tongan, Samoan, African American, Mexican American. There were some Asians and things like that. So that whole community was lost. If they did get instructions, they had nowhere to go. Their families, their parents didn't own any businesses, couldn't bring them on, and the businesses they owned, the kids didn't want to work in. You know, the businesses they worked for, they didn't want to work in. So I said, what I need to do is I need to create an art and entertainment organization. So Arts Resources and Talent Association, which is ARTA. It's an organization that you can be a member of, and then as a member, I can provide you with training in all the multimedia subjects so that you could pick up those skills. But that was something I was doing then anyway. The thing that was missing was, where do you go once you have those skills? So when I created GBAT TV, and I couldn't do that until the internet got fast enough, because it was disappointing to wait. If you remember, you're pretty young, so you might remember modems. You
I
know,
absolutely do. And when I
you've
first
heard of them before.
computers back in college in '87, when I started college, we still had
Okay.
DOS
Okay.
on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the computers came in, personal computers came in about 1990-ish, and the modems were 14.4, 56K. They were very slow.
Right.
So it was just completely and totally useless to try to do anything on the internet. Then it was about 2005 when YouTube and Facebook and not Facebook, MySpace and they were using the internet, and it was faster, faster, faster. So the media was really not very good on YouTube. It was very amateurish and very, it was cats falling off couches and epic skateboard fails and things like that. So I said, but the speed is fast enough now that if I can create an internet television broadcast network that young adults can access with skills, not just get on there and do what they do on YouTube, but with skills and actually produce television, then I've got it. I can teach them. I can guide them. I'm an old guy now, so I was parenting them now. Now I'm grandparenting them, and I could get them into the field, get them some work. And I said, if I could make it so that kids can produce programming that highlights their community, it's a win-win-win. So that's what I did.
Wow.
That's what I'm doing.
That's so exciting because, of course, this show is all about highlighting positive things within our local communities. And
Yes.
so my background, when I went to college at UC Berkeley, is mass communications. I wanted to be an anchorwoman, but the news was just so negative. And, especially I can imagine with COVID right now, so many have died, and it's like, and on to the next news. What? I need a moment. But can we pray? Can we something?
Next. Next.
Yeah. And so a lot of the good positive things were, getting, thrown on the floor and did not even make it the cut.
Yeah. It doesn't make money.
Goes to air.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no
so
profit.
it's inspiring and not encouraging to our community. So we're just, giving out, selling out negativity. And so now that many years later, now that I am a grandmother now, because all my children are grown, thank God. So now, I'm able to really just focus on looking for those positive things. And so it's great to be able to mentor and help that next generation, because we're only going to be here so long, but while we're here, do what we can, but to also help inspire that next generation. And so that's why it was so impactful when I first met you, even talking to you about the things that you were doing and reaching out to young people too, to be able to help train and to give talents, because we can have tools, but if we don't know what to do with them, then we won't be successful. So
you can't make anything of it,
Right.
Yeah, you can't move forward without a path, And then the thing that bothered me most was that most of the parents of our minority, of our families, most of our parents and things like that, really didn't own things. They couldn't guide you through something. They were working for somebody else. So most of the kids' parents had to ask their boss for time off to go to one of their events if they had an event. They had to ask for time off. Whereas, the community that has a lot of advantages, the advantaged communities, they just say, hey, I'm just shutting down, I'm going to take off. Or they bring somebody else and says, listen, watch the shop for me, I'm going to take off. They own the place, they run the place, they make the decisions. So their families can mix, they can work together because they run the show. So my kids didn't run the show.
So what you're doing though now is trying to help to train a new crop of entrepreneurs.
Yes. Yeah. So what I did, now let's be practical. Like I said, I've been in this business 40 years, and I'm not stupid. I'm not gonna have a teenager who doesn't pay any dues, follow any directions, just wants to go on his own or her own and do their own thing. I'm not gonna hire them to do a commercial job because I'm responsible for that commercial job. So how do I get a kid who has some talent but has no life skills? None. And he or she needs life skills in order to get into that workforce. How do I mix the two of them together? I have to groom them, mentor them, and let them know that certain things are just not okay. Filtering language has got to be, that's a must. You can't just drop the F-bomb every time you just chat with people about nothing. Even when you get mad, you can't just drop the F-bomb.
Right.
You know, you have to filter. Say, listen, I'm not in that place. You can talk the way you want to talk when you're where you can talk like that. But when you go out into the world and try to make a living, unless you're in that world, you know, you have to behave yourself. And so I created one show specifically to pilot this through. It's called Discoveries. And I said, I will take a person who has a minimal amount of skills in production work and work them through production, media productions, by having them produce things for Discoveries. So I have it's like a 17-year-old girl who's in our program, and she has produced a couple of shows on Discovery where she's the interviewer and she learns the production process. If I was to walk away right now and send her, I couldn't recommend her for the job. She doesn't know enough. She does not practice enough, not confident enough, but she's learning those things now. You know, so now she's 18, and if she were to keep with it, then she would be practiced, and then she could do a job. And I'd be willing to have her work for us and produce a show of her own design, because I've taught her and I've taught the other students how to create a show of your own design and how to plan out the materials that are needed, the costing, the scheduling, the staffing, and all those things. It's a life skill, that, you know. But I have to do this out of my own pocket. So when I do this, and a kid, because the kids are kids, they break a piece of equipment, I have to replace it out of my pocket. You know, so it's a little frustrating. You know?
Yeah, because that's part of also being the big boss. But at the same time, you know what you've mentioned several times here is life skills, and so that is just really, I mean, hands-on life skills is what I noted here, because that is so important for this generation that's coming up, to be able to have that, just that walkthrough to help to get to that next step. Because see, some people are fortunate enough to grow up in families that can show them that in action, and so they can model that for them. But for those who don't have it, you know, you may have the knowledge, and then but what to do with that, to have someone to guide you. But the very real practical thing that you even said about filtering, that's very important to know. See, I grew up in Compton, California, back in the 70s. And so I grew up around a lot. I mean, I had the Crips and the Bloods all around me. They lived literally on both sides of me. The thing is that, you know, we still had to learn how to carry ourselves. And I think still being in such situations that felt dangerous or scary, we learned a boldness, but we learned a way to be able to communicate, even just with your eyes and just looking and being respectful. And so you develop that. And so when I moved on and went to Berkeley, like, well, you don't seem like you come from such a place like that. First of all, it's all kind of people who grew up all kind of places. And so things can be within you, but others to see that talent and to see that potential to pull it out of you. And so what you're doing, though, is really helping to pull that out of them. What I noticed as a mentor, I've mentored for many years, and back in probably 10 years ago, when all my kids were in high school, what was frustrating is a lot of the young people that were in my mentor programs, I felt like I had to parent their parent. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened to the generations that's like right below me or right around my time? And so you can be exhausted trying to, you know, reach back so far, but all you can do is really just move forward with what's before you to help.
It's I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's so incredibly real that when you work with kids' parents, a lot of times the kids' parents are only kids themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're just so young. I was a young father. My son was born the month after I turned 18. I was in the Army, and he was born the month after I turned 18. When I came back from overseas, I met my son. You know, and when I left, his mom's belly was getting bigger and things like that. So I was a young dad. I grew up in Detroit, and then when I came from Detroit, moved to Los Angeles. So I know LA, and I went to school in LA, and I communicated in LA. I'm not a hood rat, you know. I mean, I don't mean that derogatorily, but I wasn't a hood runner or anything like that. I just, but I had to interact with people from the hood who were trying to insist on respect from you because they weren't getting any respect from anybody else. And I grew up. My father was a lawyer, and my mother was a small business operations manager. So they could, you know, kind of write their own tickets more or less. So they taught me how that I need to be able to write my own ticket. And I want to teach the next generation, my kids and grandkids, how to, you know, write their own tickets. But they got to be in the driver's seat, and that's a tough job. It doesn't just happen because I say it. You got to be in the driver's seat. You have to. You could just beat up that metaphor. If you're going to be in the driver's seat and you're going to run in the big time races, you have to understand how a car runs. You have to understand aerodynamics. You have to understand stability and instability. You have to understand conditions of the road. You have to understand the mind of the racer next to you, what they're going to do, what they're not going to do, what happens when this happens. You have to know what's going on. And life is like that too. You have to understand the mind of the person next to you. Because you're not just going down the road. Sorry about the metaphor, but you're not going down the road by yourself. There's people all over. You have to understand what they're thinking, what they're doing, and pay attention for them because it affects you. So
absolutely. When we were in driver's ed, using the same metaphor, when we were in driver's ed, the teacher taught us you need to drive not just for yourself, but for those around you. You need to anticipate, because just because your light is green doesn't mean you go when the other person going across you. It's still moving. You need to wait. And so just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean it's the right time.
And that's what I say to people. I say that's a great example, because if I drive a car, but I also have a motorcycle that I ride for fun, for recreation. When I get on that bike, I'm very, very attuned. In fact, when I went to your meeting, I rode my bike.
Yeah.
And when you get to the intersection, I wait that extra second for the light to clear. Then I look left and right, and then I take off. Okay, I burned 2 seconds at the intersection that I could have been zipping off, pulling a wheel stand, going down the road. But that 2 seconds might save my life one time if I do that as a ritual for the guy who's trying to beat that yellow light, and he doesn't. We've all seen it. People who, they see a yellow light, they hit the accelerator, the light turns red when they're 50 yards from the intersection, and they still go through it. So if I had just zipped off, I'd be a dead man. You know, so, you know, you got to learn patience. You have to, you know, it comes with maturity, but there's so many things to learn, and that's why the life skills thing is so incredibly important. It's not just picking up a skill, how to weld something or how to hammer a nail. You know, there are life skills that just have to go along with it, you know, to make it
absolutely. So the thing is that what's wonderful is that many people like me, I can mentor and help people. You know, with life skills and different real tools, you know, whether they go to college or whether they just get different skills. But you also have a program, something that people can literally be a part of, whether it's the GBAT TV or whether
that's the production group.
Okay,
yeah,
that's the production part of it, but then the arts part of it too, the resource,
the educational part. Yeah, the ARTA is the educational part.
Yeah. Right. So people can join that association?
Yeah, so the way I set it up is I said, if I could set it up so that I create an organization and they go to GBA-ARTA.org, and if they're a student and they get a student membership, every year we renew it as $25. And that $25 helps fund the things that we do, the projects that we work on, the training of other people. It's only $25, so it's not a big deal. But what I did was, I found in the first year or two, people who are not tremendously successful pick up skills of the tremendously not successful. So if they're not willing to invest, for example, in an education, you know, pay the tuitions and the dues for an education, sometimes they don't step into that successful path. So that's a hard time, even with people for $25. They'll go out and have lunch for 2 people, a couple of coffees, it's $25, but they won't spend $25 to put their kid in a program that shovels trainings to them, makes offers to them about what they can do, and trains them on things. It brings programming to their schools and professionals. So I went to the community. So on GBA-ARTA.org, there is a sponsor tab as well. So I would go to a company and say, I can do a video production for you. And so the thing is, they say, well, how much does it cost? And I say, well, ordinarily I charge you $2,500, but what I'd rather you do is sponsor that equivalent number of kids' memberships for a year. You just and I'll just turn that money right around and put it into GBAT and ARTA. And so I have people, some nonprofits and companies who will hire me. And instead of paying me a check to Michael Bouyer, they go online and they underwrite 10, 20, 30, 50, 1,000 students. And then I give them the option, you can pick that if you want students from your own community, then I'll go to those schools and make that offer to them. I'll say a company in your community has underwritten 100 student memberships. So if you have 100 students, just have them go to the website, sign up as a student, become a member. Then if you have enough students in your school, then we can bring workshops and programs, classes, seminars, and things to that school. It costs money. But if it's $25 a year, for a membership, that's not very much money. So that's how I do it. Yes, you can be an individual member, or as a business, you can sponsor kids, so they don't have to pay for the membership. They have a membership, they get one, and they're good to go. And then, as a business, you get the recognition of you were the sponsor for this person, and we're going to try to make it so that if you're a company, you sponsored 100 kids, and 3 of those kids become successful in Hollywood or wherever they go, I want to be able to look back and say they were sponsored by, such and such an organization, person.
Great. So what geographical area do you focus on?
Okay, so Greater Bay Area talent is what it is. It's the Greater Bay Area. And so when I originally put out the concept of Greater Bay Area talent, I actually mapped it out, and I said from Santa Rosa in the northwest to Sacramento in the northeast, down to Modesto in the southeast to San Jose in the southwest. So, and everything in between. It's about 1,000 square miles. It's about 100 by 100. It has 11 million people. 11 million residents. So I said, this is going to be my target initial geographic location. Though I have done projects in Arizona, Southern California, Washington, Oregon, because it's an idea that needs to be pretty much everywhere, but I'm trying to focus on the Greater Bay Area.
The win-win-win is we're going to feature people who have businesses in a particular area, and then people can go to them because they heard about them and they saw their program on GBAT TV, which they do. So if you go to Momtrepreneurs, there are a couple of moms there that got featured and their businesses. And so, you may go to that business and visit them, and but you wouldn't. If you live in Los Angeles, you probably wouldn't. And actually, if you live in Sacramento, you probably wouldn't go to San Jose to go to one of those businesses. We have 11 million people here, so
wow,
plenty of audience.
So one last thing with the whole production and everything, how is that affected right now by COVID? I know schools are supposed to be starting now, so people are gonna however they're gonna handle that online or whatever. How are you functioning during this time?
Well, there's a couple of things. One of them is that everything is going to be kind of distance learning now because you can't go back to school. So we're putting together a series of seminars and workshops that you can log into online. Hopefully, we'll have it done before the end of summer, so that when school season starts, people will actually be able to, as a member, they could register and they could go to these classes. So that's one of the things, is we'll have a little distance learning offering. And the other thing is that a lot of the things that we do and some of the things we've adjusted to don't really require you being there or don't really require a crowd. So if I interview you, I can interview like we are right now.
Right.
But if I come to your location and I videotape your business, so we have some good, establishing shots and things like that, you don't really have to be there. So I don't have to interact with you to make the show look more TV-ish to get that footage. I can shoot drone footage and you don't have to be there. I do real estate, properties and I shoot them from the air or the ground. And I actually have cameras I can use underwater and GoPro cameras that I can strap to the handlebars and those movie cameras that clip to the side of your car, and we can make films. So we're trying to do more things that don't really require a large production group or a large crowd. So some of the shows, Dance Party Live, Comedy Across America, those shows are just not happening because they do require a crowd. That's what makes them. But we try to do the ones that don't in order to keep things on life support while we're all trying to get through this together.
Okay. Well, I think that this is giving some young people options as well as while they're at home. Many of them that will have to be doing work from home, this could be like an extra credit kind of thing that they can, get into. And maybe young adults as they're just trying to figure out, what do I do? Now I just graduated maybe from high school and I'm not ready to go to college, but I'm limited on where I could work because so many things are shut down.
Yeah. Well, one quick thing, because this is very important. I get hired by high schools to consult about multimedia curriculums. So I'll go there and I'll talk to 30, 40, 50, 60 faculty members, and I tell them that they can teach math, geography, English, all those different subjects of history, through multimedia. And it's engaging for the students. And so I can get your kids in your school to learn more about documentaries and more about the history and about, we do 3D animation. They learn more about math in the 3D animation class than they would in a class trying to solve for X, and figure out what axis does this, that, or the other. They do it. They create an animation. And they say, I see what the x-axis is now, the z-axis. I get that. I see what a Boolean operation is. I see that. I see how you use it. So the teachers say, and they're afraid because they don't know the subjects. So I solved that problem. I said, I'll teach you while I'm teaching them. You don't have to answer questions. I'll answer the questions. You just be there and make sure they obey. They behave themselves. I'm not going to babysit. You babysit. You make sure your kids are accountable to you. Because if I have to go off on them, I'm a grandpa. I'll go off on them. But
no, absolutely. My mom always. I think she just took that stance even when she was in her 20s. Y'all just listen to me. I made it here. So the reality of it is, with this whole COVID thing, if nothing else people can say that's positive out of it, is that it's helped us to learn how to adapt and refocus and do some things that are different, out of the box, and things that are really practical and that can help move us forward in life. So what you provide and what you offer it's very right now, even though you've been doing this for years, it's right now a necessity. Right. It's right now a real tool to help, because many students are very visual. And so that's why they like the PowerPoints and the overheads and the physical things when you bring them into the classroom, even though it was, mortifying when we had to pit the frog and, oh my God, that was horrible biology. But, but you still see it very in real life, real action, and how life just works. So I really appreciate your time today. I know that you're very busy, but I really do appreciate the information. And I have your websites, and can I go ahead and put your email up on the screen too, if anyone wants to contact you?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I'll go ahead and put all that information. And so those who are watching today, please go on and become a sponsor young people to get involved with this, school districts, reach out, looking for new ways to be able to, engage your students in this, especially in this particular COVID environment and going forward. Go ahead and check out Michael Bouyer here at GBAT TV. And we just thank you for joining us today so much, and have safe journeys, and we'll talk soon.
All right, good to talk to you. Thank you.
Again, thank you, Mr. Michael Bouyer, for joining us today and sharing how your voice matters and how it's truly making a difference through that of digital media, not only for digital production, but going beyond to inspiring and mentoring hands-on life skills with the next generation. Now, if you'd like more information about how to get in touch with Mr. Bouyer, or how to get more information about GBAT TV or GBA ARTA, see the information on the screen below. Go to the website today to learn how to become a company sponsor. Also, superintendents and principals, please take the opportunity to learn more about the program that's offered here for virtual learning opportunities for your students, and also to give your students options for pathways within media, art, and entertainment. If you've enjoyed the programming today, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you again for joining us today for another episode of Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young. And until next time, remember, your voice matters. If you have something positive to share and you would like your voice to be highlighted on Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young, please contact me at YVMwithNancy@gmail.com. And if you've enjoyed this programming, please hit the subscribe button right now. Thank you.